I'm sitting here today with two very good friends of mine who I also work with. I've got Anna Keane and Lauren Appleby. And we're here to talk about some of the mental illnesses which anybody can struggle or suffer with at any point in time. So I myself have been twice diagnosed with anxiety. Anna, you've had depression.
Yep.
Yeah. And Lauren, you've got two daughters, one of whom has already been diagnosed with anxiety.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Emily got diagnosed when she was 6 with anxiety, so she was very young.
Yeah, okay. So what I wanted to explore with you first is this whole idea of a continuum. So we have this idea that we are, we can be thriving, we can be struggling, we can be injured and ill, we can be really ill. Anna, how did you know that you were actually ill, that you were suffering from depression, as opposed to being just a bit sad?
First time round, because it has reoccurred a couple of times over the last 10 years. I think it was, I just got to the point where I just didn't know how to get out of it. And it was waking up in the morning and not really knowing how I was going to get through the day. I was living in Australia on my own and didn't really have that support network around me. So it just got to the point where I just couldn't see a way out, and not feeling like I wanted to be with anyone that knew me, or be with anyone, not make contact with my friends or family at home, because they'd actually asked me if I was okay, and I couldn't deal with talking about it. So it was easier to self-medicate, go out drinking every night, look for escapism from how I was feeling. But rather than, I've had times where I've just not been happy. I've gone through a divorce. I've, had challenges in my career, challenges at home, but this just felt very, very different, very all-consuming, like a place that, I call it the fog. I refer to it like a fog, like my thoughts aren't clear, I can't concentrate, and a breaking point, really.
How did you discover that she had the issue?
It was really strange. I mean, Emily has always been far too inquisitive, probably too intelligent for her own good in some ways, and has shown levels of empathy so far beyond her years, and I think that has gone against her. So whereas you might think that's great, your child's really empathetic, she takes on the world's worries and has done since she was maybe about 3. And so since she was really young, she's taken on all of these worries. And to begin with, I thought, she's just a worrier. And then it started to get worse. And then as she got older, she started to realise that people die. There's bad things that happen in the world.
Yeah,
even some adults are naughty and do bad things. And the more she saw bad things happen, the more aware she was that the world wasn't always perfect. And then she started to get to this point of really catastrophising every situation. So it would go from...
Or was that Grenfell Towers that set that off?
Yeah, Grenfell Towers was the worst thing. She saw maybe 10 seconds of TV footage of Grenfell Tower fire, and we had about 3 months of nightmares, sleepless nights, and she started to have really physical reactions through her anxiety. So she was having tics, with her facial tics, and it was actually at that point that I took her to the doctor. The amount of impact her anxiety was having on her life at such a young age, they were sort of willing to give a diagnosis and say, right, we need to get you under child mental health services and look at maybe some CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, but almost more for us as parents rather than for her as a child, because she was so young. So essentially it's been partly through child mental health services, but more through, I'd say, my own learning. I've just read as many books as I can possibly find about how to talk in an age appropriate way to a now 7-year-old about managing worries, and we're getting there, definitely. I can see a massive improved difference.
What have I learned? I've learned so much about myself in this process, about things that happened in my formative years, things like bullying and how they've impacted me. I've learned about the relationships I have with my parents and how I can actually help them make them stronger. So it was interesting, the CBT was more about you providing that for Emily. But I've also learned that actually looking after your mental health is as, if not more important than looking after your physical health. I have techniques, things that I use CBT models to rationalise my irrational. I use mindfulness and things like that, especially when I get to those points. But sometimes it's just simple things like taking 20 minutes to walk like go for a walk and have a coffee. I think the biggest thing I've learned is that you've got to just be really open about this stuff, and you've got to talk about it in a way that it's not happening to other people, it's happening to everyone.
I feel so much more confident now in dealing with the situation. I think that we all need to get more confident in talking to children about mental health, whether your child suffers with mental ill health or not. We've just got to get those words out there. So my children are 5 and 7 and they know what mental health is. They talk about being happy, they talk about being strong in your head, and they get that. And I think that we know that so many children, teenagers, adolescents are being diagnosed with mental ill health, are self-harming, are taking their own lives. And I just think that actually we should all be starting the conversation with children as young as possible, because I feel like talking about worries with a 7-year-old may mean I'm not talking about depression with a 14-year-old.